So, there's been a lot of talk about the Gorosei lately, and more recently, even in Kuma. But did you know the funny thing about both of these groups of characters is that they appeared in the same chapter? In chapter 233, we are introduced to the concept of the Gorosei. We see all of them at once, and we see their inner sanctum. And of course, we see the pentagrams on the walls, which means a lot more than it did back then. But we are also introduced to Luffy's first big boy bounty, the first 100 million berry bounty, as Top Man Warcry picks it up and looks at it. And this is, of course, after he defeated Crocodile from the previous story saga. Then, who walks in the next page but Don Quixote, Doflamingo, and Bartholomew Kuma? And the reason why we're right here, right now, at chapter 233 is because this is the first appearance of Kuma's Bible. Kuma has this on his person nearly all the time. The most notable time when he doesn't have it is in Marineford, where he didn't know Luffy was going to be. However, it's very interesting that in his first appearance, he is holding it when Luffy is being discussed, as he is coming up in the world as a real pirate now, because the 100 million berry bounty is significant because that puts you in the whole super rookie status that occurs every year. So this is when he is entering the range to be that for this year. So he has it here. He also has it during the time where the crew is on Shabani Archipelago. And one thing I did not know is that when he's paw paying everyone away in chapter 512, we see the back of his supposed Bible. The back of his Bible has a reticle on it, the same reticle that he has on his tracksuit. That I find very interesting. And the last notable appearance of his Bible is when he is guarding the Sunny after the 2-year time skip. He's holding it while he's sitting in front of the Sunny, and Frankie finds him. So, a couple of things can be drawn from this. Number one, he most of the time has his Bible when Luffy is an important subject going on in the event that he is in, or the event that is surrounding Luffy. And two, it's not a Bible. No, I think the cover of this book that he is holding is a cover for what the book actually is. Because what gives this away to me is that he has monogrammed his particular symbol on the back of it. Now, we don't know what his symbol actually means. However, a lot of people have speculated that it does relate to him having the ability to know exactly where he's sending his targets when he pushes them, which goes back to the whole gag of when he asks people where would they like to go. So it's a reticle to relate back to him locking on to a location. And this is further emphasized by his whole cybernetic enhancement of being a pacifista, in that he has some sort of facial recognition technology, and his eye can lock on to a particular face and relate that face to a bounty in some sort of database that he has. And this is shown in the form of a reticle. What a reticle can also look like is a sun. The funny thing about suns is that on the front of this Bible is often seemingly depicting a woman radiating some sort of light off of herself. Now, what is very interesting too is that we get some recent lore about Kuma. Of course, you know, in 1095, he is a part of the Buccaneer race. This is also the same chapter in which our first of the 5 elders is really showing his stuff, exercising his powers against the Allied forces, in a way tying things neatly back to 233. And in exercising his powers, we see Kuma and Bonnie striking a very interesting pose. This, of course, is the Nika pose, We then find out later in that same chapter via Clap, Kuma's father, which Clap is a very funny name for Kuma's father because that's all Kuma tends to do after he gets the paw fruit. He claps people away. But anyway, what's very interesting is that they seemingly have, as the Buccaneer people, they seemingly have an oral tradition of the sun deity Nika. And Clap goes on to tell Kuma about all the things that Nika does. The pose he strikes and the drum sound that radiates from him, right? Here's the thing. The Bible that Kuma carries is a cover-up for the original Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Because from this chapter, and seeing as how the Buccaneers are the only people so far that mention Nika specifically, they have a specific relationship to him, makes me think that they didn't have any written word and that this is an oral tradition passed down. So the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, the original one that Vegapunk mentions during the whole Luffy versus Luffy fight, that has to be the only written word or written mention of Nika. What's also very interesting about this is that we never see Kuma with this Bible before he meets Vegapunk, before his whole roboticization or whatever. Because we see him as a revolutionary when the Revolutionary Army were freedom fighters. He doesn't have it. We see him as a slightly older man holding up a child Bonnie. He doesn't have it. We see him post Paw Fruit talking to Vegapunk. He doesn't have it. But he has it when he is fully roboticized. That is when he has it. When he's wearing the trench coat, when he's all decked out, his eyes are fully changed. That is when he has it. So based on Vegapunk having a relationship with Saul, who is now the new keeper of the new library of Ohara, or I guess that's what we're calling it, that's President Elbaf, if any place were to have a copy of the original Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, it would be there. Of course, Vegapunk would need such a book because he's memorized all the information in all the books at that library. So he would give this as a gift to Kuma because probably, much like the Buccaneers, all those who worship Nika most likely pass his legend down through oral tradition. So the only actual mention of him in text is through the Devil Fruit that gives one the power of Nika, making this possibly the only written testament to Kuma's deity in history or the world at large. And it doesn't help that in a lot of depictions, a lot of official depictions, the Bible is depicted as purple. Purple, of course, was probably the chosen cover by Kuma because the Gumu Gumu no Mi, the Gum Gum fruit, the human fruit model Nika, is purple. And of course, you know how the fruit is depicted would have been brought up within the encyclopedia itself. Now, why has Kuma covered the book up? Well, due to the destruction of the original library of Ohara, it was probably understood by many that this book was destroyed. And seeing as how many people, especially those in the world government, would probably know of the original book, it would raise suspicion as to why he would have it. So, disguising the book, keeping it from prying eyes, would be the best option, as this could contain anything. And seeing as how Kuma has gained the reputation of being the most loyal warlord to the world government, no one would really suspect that he has a book containing all this volatile information that the government was trying so hard to keep secret. Lastly, the book that we see Kuma being depicted with as a child, the blue book that reads Nino Ken. I'm not sure if that relates to the book he has as an adult, but it could be, based on what we know about him now, the start of his interest in reading specifically, or the start of him learning how to read. Perhaps Evenkov teaches him. Don't really know about that, but I do think the book that we see in which he is a child will play a very grand role in the book he most likely receives from Vegapunk as an adult, the book that he would dub his Bible. But give me your thoughts.